Hey everyone, this is Max and Maxx TCG. Thanks for joining me in another video. So we have our metagame reports that we're going through today. We have 6 and 7, and then also 8 and 9. 8 and 9 being more recent. We're going to do both of these, even though this one's a little bit older. I just didn't realize it came out when it did, and I haven't been able to get to videos this week when 8 and 9 came out. But I still want to cover it so we can see a progression of how the game's changing, because this might affect us. Last week for 4 and 5 was their first, kind of go with the Infinite Forbidden stepping into the game, which released Fiendsmith into the format, which is really crazy. So we're going to see how they're adjusting kind of with these changes having taken place. So 6 and 7 is from May 11th through May 19th. It's already in June, so it's a little bit more outdated, but again, they're still ahead of us. So we can see that they have 25.3% Tenpai Dragon, Snake Eye at 20.4, Yubel at 10.2, Fire King at 5.4, which I believe is just pure Fire King. Voiceless Voice at 4.8 and Labyrinth at 3.8. So kind of the contenders that we've been seeing in our metagame still. So if we go back to the last weeks to kind of see the difference here, we see that Tenpai actually has increased quite a few percentage points, about like 4 points or so. So it's pretty cool. We can see Snake Eye has gone from about doubling its representation to being 20.4 versus last week being at 10.2. Yubel is at 11.5, now down to 10.2, so not doing as well. And we're also seeing Fire King down quite a bit as well, now to 5.4. So Yubel and Fire King have gone down quite a bit. Snake Eye and Tenpai have gone up since the release of the Infinite Forbidden and having a little bit of time to kind of adjust from the initial release last time. So if we look at the decks here, we have 47 Tenpai, 38 Snake Eye. You have 29 of them using the Fiendsmith engine. 6 are just pure Snake Eye. There is 1 Millennium Fiendsmith Snake Eye and 1 Melodious Snake Eye and 1 Yubel Snake Eye. So a few different combinations, but Fiendsmith being very heavy in the Snake Eye deck. Yubel, 18 Fiendsmith Yubel versus 1 pure. I would just assume the reason you're not playing Fiendsmith and Yubel is just out of maybe budget. So again, Fiendsmith heavily affecting Yubel. Fire King, we have 8 Sinful Spoils Snake Eye Fire King. So it looks like a good chunk of these are still using some of the Snake Eye cards. I was thinking these would be a little bit more pure, so it's just more of a Fire King Snake Eye for the most part. We have 1 Fiendsmith Sinful Spoils Snake Eye Fire King, so someone also using the Fiendsmith in the Snake Eye Fire King version as well. 9 Voiceless Voice, 7 Labyrinth, and Labyrinth's even using Fiendsmith, which I think makes sense as well. And then we have some other kind of different ones here. Fiendsmith Magical Muskets, which I think is pretty cool. 4 Fiendsmith Unchained, 4 Gimmick Puppet, some of these using Horus Gimmick Puppet, and then 1 regular. So it might be something we see that could be interesting as Horus Gimmick Puppet for the extra level 8 bodies. 4 Runic, 4 Whitewoods, 2 Centurion Torii Whitewoods, 1 Horus Whitewoods, and 1 Horus Centurion Whitewoods. So we can see Whitewoods seeing some success here. I think their Runic variants are generally more of the stall kind of versions that we've been seeing. As Josh likes to say, they're a stall deck with a Runic engine. He does not like giving Runics that stall kind of mentality. I think that's pretty interesting. And then we also then have some 3 Fiendsmith Sinful Soil Snake Eye Rescue Ace. So we're seeing Rescue Ace still doing something. And then just kind of a few other one-ofs, Fiendsmith Chimera, Centurion, Salamangreat. And the main thing that we can take away here is that you're seeing a lot of Fiendsmith in the format, and that's heavily affecting it. We're not going to read through everything, but you can see there are quite a few different decks here. Once we start getting into the 2-ofs, it starts becoming probably a good player with those decks, where when we have the really high amounts, we're seeing kind of the meta affecting decks. Hey everyone, this is Editing Max. If you're enjoying the content, hit that thumbs up button, give the video a like, and leave a comment if you have any discussions you want to start, and consider subscribing to the channel if you want to see more of this type of content. Everyone, thanks again for watching, and I hope you enjoy, and we'll get back into it. So now we have Tenpai Dragon. So this is from Cosmo TCG, has published an interview with Prin about his recent victory in the China Mainland WCQ 2024 Beijing Regional Qualifier. In the article, he discussed about not running the Multchummy Purulia in the deck. Against Snake Eye decks, Multchummy would only draw 3 cards at best, and when the opponent normal summons Snake Eye Ash, special summons Poplar, and special summons Diabell Star the Black Witch from hand. However, the normal summon Snake Eye Ash and special summon of Diabell Star from the hand does not start a chain. These are just summons you can do. So Multchummy Purulia would also have to be activated preemptively, and this allows your opponent to play around the card, which makes sense, and you won't be able to get as many draws. And this could result in Multchummy only getting 0 to 1 cards. In this matchup, he found Fantastical Dragon Phantasme to be more consistent to dig for board breakers. Prin went 9-1, finished 1 through 3rd in the Yu-Gi-Oh! China Mainland WCQ 2024 Beijing, which had 360 participants. So we look at this Tenpai deck, it's pretty consistent what we've been seeing. 3 of the red, 3 of the white. They've cut down the green one to 1, and now we're also playing 2 of Genroku yellow one, and then also going 1 Dora Draco Dragon to search it. I think it's probably just to have better consistency so you don't open too many of these. Even though I could see going 3 of this and not playing the Dora Draco, but a lot of decks have been doing this 2-1 ratio with this. We're seeing Pankratops, Santa Claus, a Magnuma, which is just engine for this deck. It lets you get your starter cards going first. If you don't open anything, you can get one of your starters, which is nice. Lots of hand traps, Ash Blossom, Ogre, Bell, Maxi, DD Crow, Imperm. And at this point, you're starting to kind of run out of options. So people are playing Droplets, Lightning Storm, Duster, and then Prosperity. So that's kind of interesting. I don't know how I feel about this. I feel like maybe it's better to focus on more hand traps going first, because one thing that's a little bit weird is you have a lot of hand traps here, which they have a lot of space. You have, in terms of hand traps, we'll start with Magnamut, so that's 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So there's 14 hand traps in the deck. And now you're also playing board breakers, with Pankratops and Santa Claus. You also have the Lightning Storm and the Duster as well. And then we have 3 Droplets. Out of all the hand traps to kind of board breaker ratio, I think if I were to play one, it would probably be Droplets. I think it kind of works best, in the format, but I don't know if I really like Droplets as well, because one thing that sucks is that when you're trying to hand trap your opponent into the ground, they don't have much to Droplet. And this deck doesn't utilize its graveyard that well. You could technically send a dragon, bring it back with the green. There's some synergy there, but I don't know how I feel about it. I feel like maybe you just go with more targets like Effect Veiler to hit Ash or things like that. Might be better still. So I'm not too sure on how I feel on this. I feel like maybe it'd be better to go for more hand traps and maybe side some. We could see in terms of their side deck, they're siding Nibiru, which I can understand maybe citing that. You now have the issues with Fiendsmith being able to always make the rank 6 if they want to play around it. I think the Phantasme is a cool card. I think that makes sense as a good option. I could see playing more Ogre. It's pretty good as a board breaker if you want a board breaker and potentially a hand trap that can pair. I think Droll might even be something to just main deck because of all the Fiendsmith cards. Kind of cuts that engine out. So I feel like maybe I would personally make some changes, but they did really well with the deck. Also, I'm not sure if this is best of 1 or best of 3. I believe the regionals are best of 3, but we see more back row hate. We're also seeing the Black Goat Laughs, Rivalry, and Red Reboot, which we don't have. So it's still, I think, a very solid deck. I'm just not sure how I feel about mixing hand traps and board breakers. I think at this point, I'd rather still just go higher hand traps than some of the board breakers they're choosing to main deck. But then it also could just be a difference in play style and, exactly how their metagame is shaping out. Maybe we will change up how we're playing, with our ratios too once the Fiendsmith engine comes out. He also talked about not playing the Multchummy Purulia, which I think makes sense because it just makes more sense to play the Maxi. It's just a better card than Multchummy, and maybe we'll actually see the OCG ban Maxi for Multchummy being its kind of weaker replacement. And I think this would be great for us because the OCG does really design its decks around Maxi, and we can see this, and it does make decks struggle for us that do better in the OCG because of the fact they can play around it. So I think if we both have access to this card, it not being as good of a card to main deck as Maxi, but still could be good. And you can always just shotgun it in the draw phase so they can't troll you or something, just preemptively making them, adjust the way they play, probably generally giving you at least 1 card, making up for it. So I think this will still be at the very least, a side deck card, if not a, main deck card. For us in the TCG, and we'll just kind of see how it goes and see if that changes if they do ban Maxi. And let me know what you guys think. Do you want them to ban Maxi? Do we think this will replace it? I think they'll be really interesting in their next ban list to see where they go. Again, really hoping they ban Maxi for this card. So next we have Snake Eye with Rise of the Forbidden Droplets in the metagame. Xian, I apologize if I said your name wrong, made a metagame call out to cut Divine Temple to Snake Eye and run Dramatic Snake Eye Chase instead. Divine Temple to Snake Eye and Chase are extenders and contribute to bodies for link summoning, but any link monster being brought out would still be vulnerable to droplets. As wanted, the Sinful Spoils is currently at 1. Dramatic Chase provides another way to get access to Black Witch, which could fetch Sinful Spoils of Betrayal Severa, can negate the face-up card on the field, and it's vital for thwarting your opponent's droplets. Playing both Temple of the Snake Eye and Dramatic Chase is an option, but since you would only be able to search either one with Snake Eye's Poplar Fetch, which means you'd only be able to utilize either one or the other. Cutting Temple to Snake Eyes and Snake Eyes to Yubel Star removes the chances of drawing them as bricks. Jian has shared a video showcasing the various combos with the build that you can see in the link here. Running Super Poly in the main deck is an uncommon choice. Most players would be running Droplets instead, as this also frees up extra deck space to run Appaloosa, Build a Goddess, and Access Code Talker. Jian, Duels Cup 2021 China Mainland Champion, went 9-1 and finished 1-4th in the Yu-Gi-Oh! China Mainland WCQ Shanghai, which had 452 participants. So I do think there's some interesting things to discuss about with the choices they're making, especially with things we've been discussing like banning the field spell, really cutting the follow-up for the deck. I think one thing to note is that for us, the presence of Nibiru has always been really big, so having the field spell is a really great way to play around that, which Dramatic Chase doesn't do as much. And I've seen people talk about how Dramatic Chase might be better as a replacement in the pure version if they were to get rid of Original. And so that's something to kind of think about. There is some differences there. They're more playing around Maxx, where a lot of people aren't maining Nibiru because one, Fiendsmith is out and they could all make, the Highway King Caesar to play around it, as well as the fact that Nibiru's never been as big of a presence in the OCG because they have Maxx, and Maxx does a better job of stopping combo decks than Nibiru does, since some combo decks can play around Nibiru. And so that could be some differences here. We're seeing him not play as many hand traps. We have 3 Ash, 3 Maxx, so that's 6, 9 with the Imperm, 2 Effect Failure, so we're at 11, and then 12, 13, so 13 with Droll. We could see this go technically higher, but they are playing the Super Polys, and they're also playing the Double Called and Crossout. I think that makes sense that they're playing these. Gives you better chance going first. Crossout can be good in a mirror match, and Call By is decent against a lot of cards in the graveyard like Princess or other things, so it's not terrible to draw going second. So I think a lot of these ratios make sense. Again, I don't know how I feel about the Droplets in such a hand trap heavy format, because again, if you hand trap your opponent, they don't really have anything, now you just have a Droplets. Might be better just to go with a lot of hand traps and maybe side Droplets or not play Droplets. We did see some people do this, I think, at one of the national tournaments in Europe, where we saw some players in Gabriel Susi playing through Droplets. I don't think it's a bad card, and it's still pretty solid, but I think in a super heavy hand trap format, I'm not sure how I feel on this. But I do like the idea of Dramatic Chase being able to search the trap to out cards like Droplets, which I think is interesting. I really don't like Super Poly in these lists, just because I think Super Poly really needs to be played in something that can capitalize off of it, because right now Super Poly isn't a card that wins you the game. It doesn't just out boards completely on its own, so that's why I don't know about it. And the fact that you're cutting Appaloosa and you're cutting Access Code, which are great ways to get OTKs and clear boards, I don't think it's worth it for the 2 inclusions here, considering they don't just beat this matchup going second against Snake Eye, and it's not even that good against Snake Eye unless you can also do something as well. I do like it in Centurion that I've brought up in the past because of the fact that they can make use of super polying the Snake Eye, Ash, and Poplar into Garua before they make the Phoenix to pop your Super Poly, and then you could follow up with a Chaos Angel for more interruption. So I think you need Super Poly in decks like that, can heavily capitalize off of it, make use of the bodies, draw extra cards, really do something with it going first or second. Because I do think it's good against other matchups, but with such a heavy Snake Eye dominant deck, I don't know if it's as good, but it can be decent against the Tenpai Dragon, which has a lot of representation. So maybe that's the reason to play it. But let me know what your guys' thoughts are on this. Again, their format's a little different than ours right now, so that could, make for some of these changes. Hey everyone, this is Editing Max. If you're enjoying the content and you want to support the channel, you can check out the TCG affiliate link in the description below. It supports the channel and costs you nothing, and you'll just be doing the same thing you normally do when you buy cards from TCG Player. If you're new to buying cards from TCG Player, check out my website. I have a section on it that helps out new people, kind of explaining some of the aspects of TCG Player, so that way you can get the most out of your money and you don't fall into some of these weird things that some people do to push up the price of cards. If you want to become a patron on the channel, check out my Patreon. It's another way you can help support the channel. We have different perks you can check out, like a lot of archetype proxies you see on the screen. Every week, I put a new one out that everyone on the channel can vote on YouTube, and then these go to Patreon for you to print out. You can also join for early access. Some videos will be one-day early access, others that are in a longer series could be weeks out in advance, and you can get the entire thing at once, while everyone on YouTube has to wait week by week for all the videos to come out. You can also join for an exclusive Yu-Gi-Oh! Reaction series where I watch through the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime, we have discussions in the comments, and watch through it together as well. Plus, there are other perks coming out in the future. Everyone, thanks again for watching the content. Alright, so next we have Yubel. So it says 2 Dark Beckoning Beasts, 1 Chaos Summoning Beast, and 3 Opening of the Spirit Gates is now the preferred ratio in the main deck for playing around Droll and Lockbird, Effect Veiler, and Infinite Permanence. If your opponent opens with Dark Lord Beckoning Beast to add Opening the Spirit Gates from deck to hand, and it gets hit by an opponent's Droll and Lockbird, then Opening the Spirit Gates cannot be activated. Whereas if you opened Opening the Spirit Gates to add Dark Beckoning Beast from deck to hand, and get hit by the opponent's Droll and Lockbird, then Dark Beckoning Beast could still be normal summoned, and you can get an additional normal summon for one of your fiend monsters with 0 attack and defense, such as Samsara de Lotus. Dark Beckoning Beast is then used to link summon Salamangreat Great Almirage, and then Opening of the Spirit Gates effect would be used to special summon it back from the graveyard. Almirage and Dark Beckoning Beast can then be used to link summon Moon of the Sky, Closed Sky, and that can go into your Fiendsmith combo. This we don't have confirmation of in the TCG yet, so we don't know if we get this. If we do get this, which I kind of hope we don't, it makes Snake Eye extremely splashable because you can go into it off any 2 bodies, which is scary. And I hope we don't get this card right away until they maybe do something to the Fiendsmith engine or something to some of the cards that make the Fiendsmith engine so powerful, like Beatrice or Highwave King Caesar. The threat of Effect Veiler Infinite Permanence also makes it better to open with Opening of the Spirit Gates in the opening hand rather than relying on Dark Beckoning Beast to add it from deck to hand. However, Dark Beckoning Beast effect cannot be used to add another copy of itself from deck to hand, so Chaos Summoning Beast or Chaos Core is needed when opening the Spirit Gates. So this is the list. We have Muhammad. He went 9-1 and finishes 3rd through 4th in Yu-Gi-Oh's Asia WCQ 2024 Indonesia, which had 226 participants. So we can kind of see the ratio they're playing here. They're playing 2 Yubel, 1 Spirit, which I think it makes sense to play 1 Spirit. It's a little bricky. And I think it's one of the issues with this deck is that it's overall still kind of bricky. You have the one Unchained monster, which I think is not terrible to open. You have the 3 Fiendsmith, the 1 little Lori to discard. 2 Beckoning Beasts, 1 the Summoning Beast, the Samsara, 1 Grave Squirmer, and then we have again a good amount of hand traps here. We have 3 Ash, 3 Maxx, 2 Droll, so that puts them at 3, 6, 8. 3 Imperm puts them at 11. I can maybe see going down to 1 with the Nightmare Pain. I don't know if it's that great to open, and if you already open it, you can just search the trap, I believe, so I'm not sure on that. I do like 3 of the Spirit Gates. I think that's really good for playing around hand traps. I don't necessarily like the core, but I get that it gives you more plays. You open up with Beast, but I feel like also opening with Beast, you'll probably just get hand trapped anyway, so maybe it's not worth playing the extra brick for the fact that this probably won't resolve on its own anyway. So it's just better to kind of mitigate that. I also can see playing more Squirmer, but maybe also due to the new Yubel fusion and the Fiendsmith package, we don't need the extender from Squirmer like we were seeing in the TCG. And there's a really good profile that Salam Yukio did on his Yubel deck in the TCG before the release of Phantom Yubel, which you would see they're playing here, which I think does change the deck and make it a lot better. So I'll link that if you guys want to see it. I think he has really good reasoning for why he's playing the ratios he's playing in the Nationals tournament he went to. So we can discuss that as well. But yeah, I think this deck is really good. It's going to be really solid in the TCG, especially with Phantom Yubel releasing. I think $90 on pre-sale. We'll have to see if that's gone down. But I think with the Fiendsmith engine, with Phantom Yubel, with the ability to play through some hand traps with having a lot of good extenders, you also have the ability to use gates to extend through hand traps as well on Beast getting hit. So that's pretty cool. So I think there's some really interesting plays you can do with the deck that's really solid. Alright, so that's just the conclusion for here. We said the World Championship Qualifier 2024 had begun in the OCG. First 2 weeks as Tenpai, Dragon, Fiendsmith, Snake Eye, and Fiendsmith Yubel taking top spots. And if you enjoy these Metagame reports, consider supporting Road to the King through Patreon. They do a lot of really great stuff, and it's really awesome for us to be able to see kind of a glimpse into these decks and what they're playing. So I think that's something to keep in mind if you do want to support them as well. I enjoyed talking through this. We had the Yubel deck that we discussed, we had the Snake Eye deck, and we had the Tenpai deck. So let me know what you guys' thoughts are on this Road to the King, and we'll jump into the next one.